Hello friends, welcome to Code Semantic and welcome to the video tutorial of ASP.NET Web API. So we are actually studying basic authentication in ASP.NET Web API. In the last video, we saw how to implement basic authentication, and in this video we are going to see how to apply the basic authentication to any controller or any action method, and then after we'll see it how to test it using Postman. So let us start. Let us switch to Visual Studio. So here I'm using the same Web API.NET application, which is Web API Advanced, and in which we have created the basic authentication attribute. Okay, so this is the implementation of that attribute or filter that we studied in the last video. And now we are going to see how to apply this authentication filter. Okay, so if you remember, I already told you that this authentication filter or any filter can be applied at three levels: at action method level, at controller level, or you can apply that filter globally. Okay, so first of all, we'll see how to apply it at a controller and action method level, and then after we'll see how to apply it globally. Okay, so here I'm just going to do one more thing. Actually, here I added that filter word, okay, in our basic authentication attribute. So I'll just remove it. Let us keep it simple: basic authentication attribute. Okay, so basically these filters are the attributes, and I hope all of you know that how the attributes are applied to any class or any method. Your guess is right. You have to specify that attribute name or class name over the controller name or over the action method. So let us apply it. So I'm just going to open one controller here. We have two controller, product and category controller. So I'm just opening the category controller. So now we'll see how to apply it at a controller level. So whenever you apply the authentication filter or any filter at controller level, it get applicable to each and every action method in that controller. So currently this controller is having only single action method. So definitely it will be applicable to that action method only. So for that I have to include that namespace. So if you remember, it is in different namespace, right? Web API Advanced Security, and here we are in controllers namespace. So let me add that namespace. So using Web API Advanced Security, and over this controller class in square bracket you have to specify your authentication filter name. So my authentication filter name is basic authentication. Okay, I removed that filtered word from this. Okay, so if it was there, then it will be basic authentication filter. So attribute word never appear here. Remember this thing. Okay, so it is very simple, right? Applying the filter at controller level. Now suppose you want to apply this filter at action method level. So since this controller is having only single action method, what will I do? I will choose another controller. So we have a product controller and it is also having many methods. So I want to apply it on the get action method. So here also I have to include the namespace first. So I'll say using Web API Advanced Security, and then after, if you want to apply it at action method level, just immediately above your action method you have to specify your filter name in square bracket. That's it. Okay, so we are done with this part. Now let us try to test it in the Postman. So first of all, I have to run my Web API application, and then after we will copy the IP from browser to our Postman, and then after we will test this. So the Web API is up now. What will I do? I'll copy this IP, then after I'll switch to Postman. Okay, so let me add one tab here. So we are going to invoke the get request. So I'll just copy this localhost IP, and then as per our routing I have to specify this API word and then after the controller name. So first of all we will test a category controller, and we are invoking the get method of it. We didn't provide any username and password, even we didn't specify what kind of authentication we are using. Okay, so let us try with this first and then after we will provide all those things. So hit the send button. Yeah, so as you can see here, you are getting forbidden response because we didn't provide any credentials, and even we didn't specify which kind of authentication or authorization we are using. And if you look at the header, response header, okay, you will came to know that this particular web API is expecting basic authentication. Okay, here in the response means actually we wrote a code like this. If you remember, while implementing our basic authentication filter attribute, see here we mention all those things, right? Means we specified, we added this header in the response that this particular web API or this particular URL is expecting the basic authentication. So let us switch to Postman again and we will try to provide those details. So how you can specify those things in Postman? So if you check here, we have an authorization tab. Okay, so you have to click on this tab, and then after, from this type combo you have to choose the authentication type. So ours is basic authentication, and then after you have to specify the username and password. So it is already there, it was in history, that's why you can see it here, otherwise you have to type it. And now we will hit a send button, and then after we will observe the output. Okay, now you can see that the response is okay. Let us switch to body, and here we can see the output. Now let us try to provide incorrect password. I'll just add one more digit and again I'll hit the send. So this time we provided everything. We added the header, we provided the username and password, but our password is wrong. So then also you are getting a forbidden response. Okay, so now what will I do? I'll just put a breakpoint in our authentication filter and we will try to see how these things are processed. Okay, I'm switching to Visual Studio, and here in on authorization method I will put a breakpoint. Okay, on line number 18. Again I'm switching to Postman. This time I corrected the password. I'm hitting the send button. Yeah, we are here now. So basically you can see those things, means your authorization header is present now. Okay, so if we check the values of authorization header, yes, this is the parameter and this is the scheme, means we are sending that our authentication is basic, and this parameter is nothing but your encrypted username and password. Okay, let us switch to next step. So now my authentication value present, parameter is also present, scheme is also basic, so all this condition will satisfy. Now in the next step we are decrypting our password. Okay, basically it is in base64 format, so that's why we are converting it, and then after we are splitting it on this colon. Okay, if you want to check the value of this, I'll just select this much part and then after I'll say quick watch, where you can see this value. See, look at here, our decoded password is like this: admin colon 12345. Okay, and after splitting we will get admin at 0th position and password at 1st position. So hope this is clear. Now you can check your array. I will expand this. See, admin and password is 12345. Then after, again we have put multiple check here. I already explained this part, so I'll directly move to this next step. So all the cases are satisfied. Now our password get validated, and then after it will call a base class on authorization method, and then after it will return from here, and the respective controllers action method get executed. So in this case it is category controllers get action method. Okay, so let us continue and let us see the output. Okay, so it is very simple to test the basic authentication from Postman. Okay, so now we'll see the third type, means how to apply a authentication filter or any filter globally. Okay, I'm switching to Visual Studio again. Let me stop my application, and now what will I do? I will just remove this because now I am going to apply it globally, so no need to put it on action method level or controller level. So for that, what you have to do, go to app start folder, and then after you have to click on this file web api config.cs. Okay, so here, as all of you know, that we put a routing logic here, but yeah, we can specify other configuration setting also. So here in the upper part or in the bottom part, wherever you want, you can mention those things. So we will register our filter. I'll just put one comment, register basic authentication filter. Okay, now how to add it? So we have this object, config object. So just use that config dot filters dot add, and to this add method you have to provide the object of your filter attribute, which is basic authentication attribute. So just create an instance of it. So new basic authentication. So before that I have to add that namespace, so let me add it. So we will get an IntelliSense. So using web API advanced dot security, and here I'll create an instance of basic authentication attribute class. So new basic authentication attribute. So here attribute word appears, remember this thing. Okay, so in this way it get applicable for an entire application. So definitely this do not gives you any control, means if you applied globally, each and every action method and each and every controller will have this basic authentication. But if you want any flexibility for some method, you do not want to apply that authentication filter or any filter, then definitely you have to choose another approach. So now I'll suggest you, after applying the filter globally, test your application and Postman and try to play with it. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this video. If you have any doubts or any question, please write it to the comment section. Thank you for watching.